Welcome to ClearView Church Online. My name's Donovan, this is Sarah, and we are the lead pastors here at ClearView Church.
We're so glad that you've chosen to join our online service. If you're in the greater Cleveland area, we'd love to have you in person. We are located at the corner of Boone and 82 in Columbia Station.
Now, as we get ready for service, stand on your feet, prepare your heart and your mind to worship Jesus as we pray ourselves into worship. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time of worship and gathering in your word. I pray that you'd speak to our hearts exactly where we're at in the season of life that we're walking through. We thank you for your goodness and your faithfulness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, it is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, it is my song. And you are good, good. Oh, you are good, good. Oh, and you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, it is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, it is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, 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 you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. Just sing that. You're never gonna let me down. 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 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good.
Before we're going to begin today, we're going to be in the book of 1 Samuel, but I had this thought, and I love how things generationally go full circle. I don't know if you've experienced a whole lot of this, I'm sure you have, but those full circle generational things, because God has a sense of humor. If we think that God is serious all the time, we forget the fact that he created laughter and he knows how to laugh, right? And he's got a sense of humor. So when I was about 10, I had this desire in my heart. I wanted to roast some marshmallows. It was on my mind. I wanted to do it. And I asked my grandmother. I was at her house. And I don't remember what she said. I genuinely don't know the answer. I feel like it was in the no line, but I can't pinpoint the answer that she gave me. So I went and I told her, I was like, I'm going to roast marshmallows. So I went and got a terracotta pot, and I put pine needles in it and newspaper, and I lit a fire on the front porch so I could roast marshmallows. So she proceeded to find me roasting marshmallows on the fire on the front porch, which apparently was not the place to build the fire. I asked. She didn't help me anywhere. So she was not happy at the fire on the front porch for some obvious reasons. Now that I'm a grown up, I can see why this was maybe frowned upon. But she also apologized because she's like, you told me you were going to do it, so we're going to call it even. So this week, I have two boys. I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're very much into the show Alone and survivalism. This is a very big thing in our house right now. They're determined to catch dinner. We went fishing Friday night, and Asher came in 2 inches short of dinner, and he was very bummed. So we will be fishing again this week for dinner. It's a real thing in my house right now. So that being said, I went to take a rest earlier this week, and I was like, they were playing baseball in the backyard, and I was like, this is great. I'm going to go lay down for like half an hour, and I'll be back. And when I came back, I found in the front of the garage, on the concrete, bricks in a perfect rectangle pattern and flames just coming out of the bricks. And 2 little boys surrounding with a hatchet as they're cutting up their own kindling. Like, hey guys, in their safety, everything's safe. They know what they're doing. They didn't go do this on their own. And I was like, hey, what's going on? They're like, Dad said it was fine. I was like, okay. We've gone through all the safety measures. They know what they're doing and how they're doing it. They did not go start a fire without permission and without the proper tools. But I was resting. So I came out, and it made me think of that time when I was 10 and I made my own fire. And precedingly, one of them was like, do we have any marshmallows? And I was like, no. But I should have some for this moment because it's as full circle as it could possibly come. I love those moments because God does these incredible things in our life that remind us of the things that we did when we were younger. And I'm sure you have some of those moments yourself. Today we're going to start in the book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel is this incredible divine book, this incredible divine place, because you're coming out of the book of Judges, and the Judges is where Israel just cannot get their stuff together. They just can't pull it together. You start with some like good judges, you got a couple good ones, then you got a couple, you have an okay, and then it gets bad, and then it just gets worse. And the way they're getting worse, they're progressively getting worse, where the Israelites are becoming more and more like the Canaanites, and they are willingly absorbing and adopting all of these pagan practices, and they're just taking them in. So now you come to this place where Israel is as far away from God as they can possibly be, wondering why there's no blessing. So that's an interesting crossroads to get to. And so in comes 1 Samuel chapter 1. Hannah is this incredible woman who is not able to bear children, and she's broken over it. And her husband has another wife, right? Culturally has another wife, and her name is Peninnah, and she has no problem. She's like fertile myrtle, has no problem having children. And they are at this moment, they go to sacrifice. And in verse 7, this is what we're going to go to. Verse 7 says that every year when they went to sacrifice, Peninnah would mock Hannah until she wept. The pain of infertility, the pain of being unable to bear children is an unmatched pain. Because like I said, God created women to have a desire to mother. Like it's just there. It's just natural. He put it there. And so when that process isn't able to happen, it's heartbreaking. And so Hannah is in this heartbroken place. And now you have this woman who is able to bear children, just keep poking the buttons. Just keeps poking the buttons. Just keeps poking the buttons. Until Hannah is destroyed. We go to verse 9. Once they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house, and in her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. This is where this verse goes. Hannah took her brokenness to the Lord in prayer. She took her brokenness to the Lord in prayer. She was broken beyond measure. It was broken beyond the place that she could comprehend or put into words, and it was something she couldn't fix. Now, I'm a problem solver in the sense that I love to dream, I love to brainstorm, I love to think outside of the box, I love to put pieces together, and when it goes beyond your ability to do something, it's hard. And when it's well beyond your ability to manage or control or create or fix, then you feel like your hands are tied. But Hannah took that exact place, that exact brokenness, and ran to the Lord in prayer. sometimes when we hit that place of brokenness, we have the psychological thing like fight or flight, and we do one or the other. And sometimes we fight against God because we're frustrated that we're broken, and we forget what it means to fight to get to God because we're frustrated that we're broken. So fight or flight, I am usually fight all day. And when we were in Atlanta, it was about 10 years ago. I was in a Home Depot. He went to some like massive electronics store that has a restaurant inside of it, like all the big TVs, all the bit, like it was just, he loved it. I was like, you go there, I'll go to Home Depot. This makes more sense. So it's called Fry's, and he's in Fry's, and I'm at Home Depot with a friend of mine who's repainting her office, and this tornado comes through. And it was bad enough that they took everybody inside the store and put everybody into the break room. Now she's sitting there, she's looking at her paint chips, picking out her colors, making her choices, and I'm sitting there going, I can flip over that vending machine if I have to. That guy is definitely left-handed. That one, I can flip this table and make a barrier. And I went into fight mode. Like, what am I going to have to do to survive whatever tornado thing is going to happen? And then I've seen movies, and I know how people operate in confined locations. I'm going to be ready. I am fight or flight all day, and I will fight. But what happens is sometimes when we fight in that place of prayers, we go before the Lord and we're broken and we're like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Why am I dealing with this? Why am I here? And we forget the power that comes from the place of saying, God, I exalt you even in my brokenness. I lift up your name even in my hurt. I'm going to exalt you before I'm going to worry about where I'm at, because you are worthy to be praised above where I am. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to hear your brokenness. He does. But there is a place and a value of exalting him first. There's a place and a value of recognizing who he is before I come with my list, before I come with my brokenness. He already knows where it is, but it's an adjustment of posture. That's right. In the same fashion, I have sat in this place through some really ugly cries. The kind where your face contorts and you're not sure who you are when you look in the mirror. I've had some of those too. And one of the places that this has taken me to, and I am not a singer by any stretch of the imagination, and I even told God, I was like, if you put this on my mind, I'll do it. But if you don't, that's great. We'll go with that. But in those moments where I have been at that place of brokenness, where I don't know what to pray, and I don't know what to say, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know where to go, this is the song that has resonated in my spirit over and over again. And it's simply this. I exalt thee. Yes. I exalt thee. I exalt thee. Oh Lord. And I've sang this over and over again in my car. I've sang this in the quiet. I've sang this in the place in my mind, because there's seasons and storms and tornadoes that I've gone through that are outside of my control. They're outside of my ability to fix and to drive and to do things. And I have to remember who God is and remember to claim and put him in the place that he is to be in. That's right. The second thing is that prayer is powerful. We know this. We've heard this. We have it on cool things. We have a sign in our living room that says, just pray. I love the heart of prayer. But there's something incredibly powerful about it, because, let's be honest, Bon Jovi did not sing a song called Living on Hope. It's true. It's fact. It doesn't work. You're living on a prayer because there's a power in it. And I'm not preaching Bon Jovi, so calm down. But reality is, he didn't sing a song called Living on a Hope. Well, let's think about this for a moment. There is power in a praying mother, a praying grandmother, a praying father, a praying grandfather. And many of us sit here today because of the value of the praying mother, the praying grandmother, the praying father, and the praying grandfather. That's not gender exclusive. That's powerful in the generation. And so, because of that, prayer matters. Prayer is not gossip, it's not hoping, it's not wishing, it's not good thoughts or vibes. I don't even know what they are. Prayer is intentionally going before the Creator and crying out to him. It's a beautiful place of worshiping him and reminding yourself that he doesn't owe you anything. Right. He doesn't owe us anything. He offers us things. He offers us salvation, hope, peace, forgiveness, self-control, except today. Go to the bake sale. It's all good. It's all healthy calories. They're all holy. It's okay. Hit that bake sale. But then tomorrow, self-control, guidance, provider, protector, healer, mercy, grace. He offers us these things. He owes us nothing. One of the things we learned about in the book of Job that was a kind of a hard pill to swallow and a hard pill to grab a hold of is that I'm not the center of the universe. It's not really about me. I shared this one Wednesday night. I'll share this with you guys. It was funny. I'm attempting to be a runner. That's where we'll start. And so right after we had this lesson on I'm not the center of the universe, I had woken up, whatever, and I went for a run, and I had my Camelback, and I'm up a good ways up from my house, and I have to pass the police station. You know, I'm a good 2 miles in, and I'm sucking wind, right? I'm not fast. I am not the Flash. I look like a sad person just trying to get where I'm going, right? But I'm slightly above a walk. That's where we're at. And so all of a sudden, I'm coming down to an intersection, and there's 2 police cars coming, and I was like, it's 7 a.m. Like, did somebody really, this is where my brain went, did somebody really call that this threatening person that looks like they're going to keel over is really concerning because they're sucking wind and sucking down water as quickly as they can, looking like they're desperately trying to get back home, because that was me. That these police are out, and they come to this point, they come to an intersection, and then this way and this way are both a cul-de-sac. And so the one police officer comes out of the cul-de-sac, goes into another cul-de-sac, and comes down. So I'm meeting them at the very point of this intersection that they're meeting each other. And I was like, it's all going down. And I have no energy to run. I have nowhere to go. It's all over. And then I just kind of ran past them. And I kept going. Ran past them. And I kept going. And I get past the corner, and I was like, do I walk now, or does that look suspicious? I don't really know, but I need to walk. Can I walk? Is it okay? And then finally it occurred to me that they don't even care that you're here. Yeah. Like, you're the least of whatever they're doing right now. Like, you can humble your little quick self right now, because it's not quick. Nobody's worried about you. And it's before 7 a.m. And I had this moment of, like, it's not about me. But in the minute, it was. And so I have to remind myself that God owes me nothing. It's not about me. He offers me everything, but he owes me nothing. Prayer changes the atmosphere and the situation we sit in, not because we get what we want, but because it's the invitation to ask God to be a part of the circumstance. And that changes everything. It's someone who prays for the Lord to intervene in another's life, not to be your advocate, so to speak, but to ask God to do what only God can do in your life, whether they know the circumstances or not. So as I said a few minutes ago, we are all a part of and can experience and can think of a mother, a grandmother, grandfather, father, who we're the product of somebody who prayed on our behalf through our life. And we get to sit here because of the power of their prayer. So are we a generation that's praying in a way that will change the generations to come after us? Are we a generation that is praying in a capacity that's going to adjust the viewpoint and the perspective and the life of those coming after us? I stand before you today as somebody who's a product of that. I had told you at some point, and I'll share a little bit of it, I was a senior in high school, and I started dating this boy that I never should have been dating, and it was one of those places where high school's hard. Like, high school's no joke. Like, it's rough. And so this boy decided, he kind of liked me, and nobody had ever liked me before, and I was pretty insecure, and I was like, I really just wanted somebody to like me, and so he liked me. I was like, this is great. And so I'm in this relationship, and it wasn't right, and I shouldn't have been in it, but here I am, right? And my mom did something pretty incredible. She prayed. I knew where she stood. I knew how she felt about it, and I was still in it, and she didn't broadcast it. She didn't turn it into a big public thing. She didn't turn it into this whole enchilada of news. She went to one or two, but I know of one, ladies in our church that was a prayer warrior who knew me and I was a family friend. And she said, hey, this is the circumstance. Help me pray for my daughter. And this woman prayed with my mom. But here's what she prayed. She didn't pray like, Lord, lead her out of this relationship, or Lord, protect her. She prayed that the Lord would let the weight of my sin burden me so much that I couldn't stay in it.
There you go.
That's brutal. But she was right. And so what proceeded to happen was I got so sick. I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't sleep. My hair was coming out in droves. I was constantly sick. They took me to the doctor to get blood drawn for mono. It's the only time in my entire life I ever passed out. You know, if you pass out at the doctor's office, they give you Mountain Dew. That was fun, or at least that's what they did there. It's the only time in my whole life I ever passed out. I went through all of these things, and finally this point hit where I was like, this isn't right. It took me a minute to connect all of these pieces. I'm not going to lie to you, in the moment, I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, why am I sick? I just went to college. I'm in my freshman year of college. I'm sick everywhere. This is happening. Like all the things, right? And finally, I severed ties. And within a week, I could sleep through the night. My hair was healthier. I wasn't sick. I was standing firm, and I realized what God had done. And then my mom told me what was prayed over me.
There you go. Yeah.
That was a powerful prayer over an 18-year-old. And I'm so thankful for it now. But because my mom did exactly that, she went into this place where she set herself in a position to say, I need somebody to pray with me. And I need somebody to fervently pray with me. And I need somebody to be willing to pray with me in the power of who God is over my daughter, so that I would not only be willing to come out of the cave, but God could step in the cave and draw me out. Yeah. And I am who I am today because of that moment. So in this place, we're going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 2 for a minute. Because one of the things that happens in our life is we get what we want, we get what we pray for, we experience it, and then we kind of hop on the worry train. So Hannah, the worry train and the struggle bus are two different places. They go in two different directions, but we buy a lot of tickets to these two places. Hannah wanted a baby. She wanted a child. She wanted a son. She prayed and she pleaded before the Lord in the right fashion, and God gave it to her. At the end of chapter 1, she finds out she's pregnant. She raises this child. She weans this child, does exactly what she told God she was going to do. She gives him back to him and leaves him in the temple with Eli. Now, as a mom, this is where I buy the worry ticket. I just drop my kid off forever. Like dropping our kids off at preschool, we had one that was like the hugger, like, Mom, don't go. And the other was like, catch you later. I'll let you figure out which one was which. And it's not the way you think it was. But kids do that thing where, as a mom, and I'm like, are they going to be okay? It's like 3 hours. She dropped them off forever. This is where we buy the worry ticket. I'm like, are they going to be okay? Did I make the right choice? Did I raise them right? Did I give them the right advice? Did I say the right things? Did they have enough lunch money? Like, we go through all the things. But here's what Hannah says. In 1 Samuel chapter 2, she says, my heart rejoices in the Lord. Yeah. The Lord has made me strong. Now I have an answer for my enemies. I rejoice because you rescued me. No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one beside you. There is no rock like our God. Stop acting so proudly and haughty. Don't speak with such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows what you have done. He will judge your actions. The bow of the mighty is now broken, and those who stumbled are now strong. Those who were well fed are now starving, and those who were starving are now full. The childless woman has now 7 children, and the woman with many children wastes away. The Lord gives both death and life. He brings some to the grave, but raises others up. The Lord makes some poor and others rich, and he brings some down and lifts others up. He lifts the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes and places them in seats of honor, for all the earth is the Lord's, and he has set the world in order.
That's right.
He will protect his faithful ones, but the wicked will disappear in darkness. No one will succeed by strength alone. Those who fight against the Lord will be shattered. He thunders against them from heaven. The Lord judges throughout the earth, and he gives power to the king. He increases the strength of his anointed one. Hannah doesn't buy a ticket to the worry train. Hannah just begins to rejoice for who the Lord is and claims his sovereignty and his power. She proclaims the power of God, his might, and who he is, the character of God. That's a whole different position than so often we take. Because we get into our own head and we get worried about our own feelings and our emotions and all the things that we feel are inside of our control. But we have to remind ourselves at the end of the day, he doesn't owe me anything. He is sovereign, he is protector, he is provider, he is caregiver. He loves unconditionally and will take care of all the details. It's not my job to get in the details. Right. So Hannah did exactly what she told God she was going to do, and then she trusted him to do everything he said he would do.
That's right.
The same thing goes with Abraham. I don't know how you do some things in your life, but let me tell you that if God gives you direction, he'll give you the steps, but sometimes he's waiting for you to take the first step of faith.
There you go.
He didn't say to Abraham, I'm a planner. Okay, let's go here for a second. I'm a planner. When he tells me, hey, let's go on a camping trip, I'm not kidding you, 30 minutes later, I've got it done. I've already booked the site. We are ready to go. I've got like the food plan. I am ready. I love to make a plan, and I am gone, especially if you say the word camping. Like, I'll have the tent in the back of the car before you're done with the sentence. And if you're a planner, sometimes we get stuck in the plan where we need to know the details. We need to know the hows and the whats, and we have to start weighing out how everything's going to happen, how everything's going to be. Well, if I do this, then what happens with this? And God, I feel God's leading me to start a business, or I feel God's leading my family to move, or I feel God's leading me to take this step of faith into this job, but I don't know if I want to do it because I need to make this much money, so I'm just going to kind of wait. You got to start somewhere. When it came to Abraham, God only told him to go. That's it. What would we do if somebody just said, go? Hop in the car. Let's go for a ride. I'll tell you where we're going. I'll tell you where to turn. I'll tell you when to go left and when to go right. I'll get you there. But you don't know where you're going. And we have such a hard time sitting at the steering wheel expecting this person to speak up at the right moment. But God said to Abraham, go, and then I will show you the way. I will show you the land that I promised you, but you've got to put one foot in front of the other to show me that you trust me, and then I will show you the next steps. So if something's going on in your heart, I don't know who this is for, but if something's going on in your heart and God's stirring something in your heart and he's saying, go, start, make a move, make the move. He's got the plan. He's got it mapped out, but you need to make the move so that he's going to reveal how strong he is, and you're going to get to show him and walk through your faithful strength. And your faith will be encouraged, it'll be empowered, and it'll be stronger when you're done. The third thing that prayer does is prayer develops peace. It develops peace.
Yes.
It brings peace. See, I remember being younger, and there was this kind of concept of like headstrong women. Okay, I was a headstrong woman, so maybe it was just told to me. I know you can't believe that I would have been a headstrong woman, but I was. I was one of those people. And so if I had an idea in my head, I was going to make it happen. And I was going to get for it, I was going to go for it, and all the things. And I think a lot about there's some headstrong women in the Bible, right? You have Deborah, who was strong in spirit. She was strong in person, but she was gracious at the same time. You have Esther, who was strong enough to be willing to lay down her life, but smart enough and humble enough to approach the king in the capacity in which he expected. You have Ruth, who was strong enough to leave everything of her nation, everything of her people, and willing to go into Israel as an alien, right, as a foreigner, and serve in the smallest of capacities. And because of that, humility and strength, mental strength, because it's hard to work in the field in the heat all day and all night, and at the same time knowing her life was on the line because she was a Moabite in the Israel land. Women have an ability, God's given you an ability to be strong in mind. And I truly believe that the enemy knows that, so that's part of why he attacks your thought process. He attacks your mindset. He attacks you in the most vulnerable place that you are. And there is a reason that as a female, you're able to do 25 things at one time. You're able to do it. I don't know how I can have something on the stove. I can be doing something over here. I can be vacuuming at the same time in another room. And now I wonder why my mom always asked if I thought she was an octopus, because she was. It's what we do. We get going and we do more things at one time. God gave you this incredible ability to be mentally strong. And the enemy loves to rob you of that mental strength. And he does it in a variety of ways. Prayer cannot be substituted. You can't substitute prayer for good vibes and good thoughts. You can't delegate the holy things. I heard this said years ago, we don't have the option to delegate the holy things.
That's right.
They don't get deferred.
No.
They don't get passed on. They don't get bottled up. We are honored and privileged to be able to call on the name of the Lord.
That's right.
And so those things don't get delegated. They get held on to.
Yes.
And they're held in high honor. Prayer is a powerful place of getting to converse and step into the presence of the King of Kings. It should never be taken lightly or substituted.
Right.
Matthew 6:6-8 says, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." There's two things in this that I absolutely love. The first is that not everybody has to know what I'm praying about.
Right.
Not everybody has to know what's happening in the secret place.
Right.
That's why it's a secret place. That's why there's something beautiful about the God that we serve, who is omnipresent, who can meet with you and meet with you and meet with you and meet with you and meet with me all at the same time.
Right.
I tell my kids all the time, I only have 2 ears, but I can only hear one of you at one time. But God does this incredible thing because he can meet in the secret place and in your car and in wherever you are, anytime, any moment. We get to know his character. We get to know who he is. We get to know who God is in the Word because we're spending time with him and we experience it. He has called you into this place. This is where this mental strength comes into place. This is where peace comes into place. He's given you a calling. There's a purpose over you. Whoever you are, wherever you go, there's a purpose.
Right.
And one of the things, as being a headstrong child, my mom said I wasn't very old and she bought the Strong-Willed Child book and read it cover to cover. Probably for good reason. And I was one of those, but I was equally very insecure. And I grew into a season where I was super concerned about what everybody else thought. I got made fun of a lot. I got picked on a lot. I went through some seasons that are just earthquaking for me. And I learned that what happens in my head is that I'm called to do something, and I'm called and anointed, and God's given me a purpose. And then what happens is insecurity comes in, because insecurity is valuing what somebody else thinks about me more than I value the calling that God's given me. So then I succumb to the worry and the concern and the fears and the feelings that I get from what other people say and think and see in me, that I let that overshadow the calling that God's put on my life. And when I do that, I create this inner turmoil. And I create this inner turmoil that keeps me from doing what God's called me to do in the place that he's positioned me to. So it wasn't too many years ago, my husband spoke some powerful words over me in a loving, absolutely loving manner. But he did something that I remember. I was complaining, I was fussing, and I was in the moment. I was in that insecure moment. And he looked at me and said, "You get to choose right here, right now. You choose if you're going to stay insecure and keep worrying about all the things, or you're going to stand firm on the calling that God's given you and quit being insecure. But at the end of the day, it's your choice."
Right.
And I was like, "Really? Couldn't you say it nicer? Did you have to put it?" No.
Nope. No.
And he was absolutely right. Insecurity is a choice. I choose whether or not I'm going to let everybody else's thoughts and feelings and worries about me and what I do and this and that and the other thing. I choose whether or not I'm going to let those voices be louder than the calling that God's placed on my life. And if I choose to let those voices be louder than the calling that God's placed on my life, then I step back from the moments that God's positioned me to speak and do what he's called me to do. And I'm like, "Hey, you know what? You got to send somebody else in." So then I'm looking at God saying, "You're first string," because wherever you are, in whatever place you're in, whatever job, whatever house, whatever you do, you're first string. So as soon as I take a step back, I said, "Hey, you know what? Your second string's better today." That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
You're first string and you're a starter on the field. You've got to get it together, pick up your britches, and choose whether or not you're going to walk in your calling or you're going to walk in insecurity. And the choice is yours. The choice is ours. Prayer does 6 things in your life. The first one is you pray because you can. God gave you a voice, use it. You pray because you can. The second is you pray because it impacts your heart and your mind. It impacts your thoughts and it impacts your approach to a situation. If you've ever been walking into a place, a doctor's appointment, a job, a cubicle, an interview, an office, a dinner meeting, and you got your heart doing that thing where you're like, "Oh, I just don't want to be here. I just want to get out of here. I just don't want to be here." And you have that place where you're like, "I know I got to be here." This is where you pray. This is where you let a song like that one from earlier just start to go through your mind. This is where you say, God, I need you to walk me through this, and he will. And he'll lead you in that place. You pray because it changes the atmosphere around you. On April 20th of this year, Pastor Donovan and I went to visit Dan in the hospital. I told you I was fight or flight, right? This was one of the few moments in my life I was flight. When we go into the hospital, I'm not thinking anything of it. It's been a busy day. We have a dinner meeting, and we shifted that a little bit because we needed to go visit Dan, and there was kind of an emergency situation with that. And we get to the hospital, and we pull in the parking lot, and I'm like, oh, this is the hospital you were in. Like, just kind of whatever. This is where I visited you, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. We get to the elevator, and I was like, same elevator. This is not good. Get up to the second floor, get out of the elevator, and I was like, oh, this is not good. So we're walking in, and I'm breathing hard, and I'm at the place where I'm not going to lie to you. I'm thinking everything inside of me is get out of here. Can I wait for you in the car? I will walk the parking garage. Just let me not be here. We're walking through the waiting room, and I looked at him, and I'm like, that's the table I called Tim and Kimberly Burks at 2 years ago, right now. Almost to the day. It was 2 days later. We get through the sliding glass doors, and I'm like, okay, I'd go up here and turn right, and your room's right there. I was like, maybe we'll go left. No, we turned right. And so we're in a different hallway, but I'm walking down this hall, and I'm squeezing his hand. I'm like, I need out of here. I can't do it. I want to go. I need to go. I got to get out of here. And I'm looking down the side halls until I get my eyes on his room. I just want to get out of here. And then I hit this moment. We walk in the room, looking at Dan, praying over Dan, and that song comes right back into my mind. And I could take a deep breath. And it was like a take a deep breath, pull on your big girl pants, like you need to pull it together kind of conversation in my head. But then that song started to play in my head. And I went over and I put my hand on Dan's foot and I began to pray over him. And I could take a deep breath and realize that as much as I don't want to be here, I can pray my way into a place where God changes the atmosphere. And I may not want to be here, but his presence is going to be here. And Dan needed his presence in that moment. So it wasn't about me. I'm not the center of the earth. I wanted to run, and sometimes we choose to run. And when we choose to run, sometimes we stop God from getting to do something he wants to do. Or we keep ourselves from being a part of what God wants to do. And so the atmosphere in that room changed in that moment. If I never go back, it's okay. But if I have to, I'll sing and I'll worship and I'll take a deep breath.
That's right.
And I'll pull on my big girl pants.
Yes, you will.
And I'll go.
Uh-huh.
The fourth thing is you pray because it creates a thin space between you and God. The fifth is you pray because it reveals the character of God. You want to know more about who God is? Spend more time in prayer with him.
That's right.
And he will show you. And you pray because prayer isn't about you.
That's right.
It's not about me. It's not about fancy words. It's not about my list of things. It's not about my worries. It's about exalting him and letting him reveal who he is to me. And then I have the confidence to walk in the right direction every time because I know who's talking to me. And I know his voice. As we close here in a moment, there's an incredible movie that came out a couple years ago called The War Room.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies, and it really helped me grab a hold of what the value of a prayer warrior is. One, what it looks like, and two, how it impacts those around us. And so I want to challenge you with what I shared earlier. Are we a generation that's praying in a way that will transform the generations coming behind us? Are we a generation, are we a people so desperate to get alone with God that we will fight to get alone with him, desperate for him to reveal opportunities to share who he is with those around us?
Wow, it is always a joy to be able to worship Jesus and hear from his word with you. If you want to sow a seed into ClearView Church's ministry, into what we're doing in the greater Cleveland area, in the nation, around the world, you can do that by going online to clearviewchurch.net/giving, and you can go ahead and give your tithes and offerings, give to missions, or give to kingdom builders as we advance the gospel and build the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. I pray you have an incredible week, and we look forward to joining you again online at our next online service.